Welcome back to my channel, everybody. I'm Movie Micah. This year I have watched a lot more DC movies than I ever had before, so I think it's finally time to give you my top 10 favorite DC movies of all time. However, we will only be focusing on the live-action films because I just feel like it'll be a more interesting list, and I only had one animated DC movie on the list anyways. Definitely share your list in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but without further ado, let's get into my list. At number 10, I have Man of Steel. Man of Steel is a frustrating one because it has great ideas and so much potential, but it doesn't meet what I wanted from it. The first time, I thought it was okay. The second time, I thought it was trash. And the third time, it kind of grew on me, but still frustrated me quite a bit. The ideas themselves are great, but all the execution is off. The characterization of Superman in this movie was not very good. It's just not how Superman should act, in my opinion. I also think the visuals are pretty disgusting, and the action is really bad. If it only had some changes to the characters and tone, I think this could have been a great movie. Number 9, I have Batman Begins. This is a film that I was extremely disappointed by when I first saw it. I think it's by far the weakest of the Dark Knight trilogy, and it could have been a whole lot better. Of course, it is still a pretty good movie, but both of these villains sort of fell flat in my opinion. I just never cared about Ra's al Ghul as a villain. I also find the action in this movie very disappointing. This is another film where I like the ideas, but not so much the execution. The best thing about this film is that they nailed the character of Batman perfectly. I think this is the first time in any movie that Batman was characterized just right. Number 8 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Some people really hate this movie, but I think it's pretty underrated, and it's one of the best films in the DCEU. I still need to see the Ultimate Edition, which I've heard is much better. I have a good bit of problems with this movie. I think this version of Batman was pretty bad, but overall it's a solid film with great action near the end. I also think Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor is pretty unnecessarily hated. I didn't think he was all that bad, honestly. Maybe my favorite thing about this film is Superman's sacrifice at the end. It's a fantastic moment, and it made me like Henry Cavill as Superman a lot more than I did before. In 7th place, I have Superman the movie. I think this film may have taken a little while to get going. Nowadays, it could feel slow, but I thought it was very enjoyable. Once we got the first real Superman scene, it was a great ride. I personally don't like this version of Lex Luthor very much, and I thought they could have done a little more with each and every character. So while this isn't the best Superman film in my opinion, it was definitely a good way to start things off, and it's just a good origin story. Casting Christopher Reeve as Superman was just the perfect choice, and he's still the best version of the character. With all that said, I do think the sequel is quite a bit better than this one. Number 6 is The Dark Knight Rises. Some of you may remember when this was my favorite DC movie, but ever since then it's taken quite a drop. I have just realized how many flaws there are, and now I realize how much better The Dark Knight really is. I still think the action is fantastic, and Tom Hardy as Bane was great. There are also some incredible moments that I think are some of the best in the trilogy. The scene where Bruce Wayne escapes the pit is one of my favorite Batman scenes of all time, but overall I don't like this film nearly as much as I used to. Last time I did my Batman ranking, this was number 1, but if I did it over again, this would be in 4th place, unfortunately. Making my top 5 is Batman Returns. Some people really don't like this movie, but personally, I think it's almost as good as Batman 89. Batman Returns might be the most underrated DC film yet. I don't see many people with it in their top 5. I think Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito were literally perfect to play Catwoman and Penguin. They both have real backstories that make sense, and I just really like these villains. I know they were both kind of disgusting at different points, but they worked for me. Michael Keaton is also my favorite Batman, so the cast of Batman Returns is just phenomenal. There are still plenty of things I don't like, but I enjoy the movie a lot overall. In 4th place, I have Batman 1989. This was the first really good Batman movie that we ever got. One thing that I absolutely love about it is this version of the Joker. Jack Nicholson was perfect to play Joker, and I really like how Batman and him connected. They basically made each other who they are in this DC universe, and I'm a big fan of that concept. This way, it makes even more sense that they would have such a connection and be enemies like this. I do think it's kind of wrong that Batman kills Joker at the end, but this is still a really good, solid comic book movie. Most of this list has been Batman because he is my favorite DC superhero, but you still haven't seen the last of his films. In third place is Shazam. This is by far my favorite DCEU movie. I think it was such a fun adventure with some actual characters. Most DCEU characters are completely wasted, but here in Shazam you actually get to like these people and root for them. I'm glad I finally get to talk about Shazam because it is no doubt the best in its universe. This film shows us what a kid would do if he got superpowers, which is all really funny to see how it plays out, and it only makes it better that it's set in Philadelphia. Can you point out some issues? Of course you can, but I just think they finally gave us relatable characters while keeping it really funny the entire time. My runner-up is Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. The way it all played out, I've only seen the Donner cut as of now, but I'm guessing that was a good thing because this film is just fantastic. The arc that Superman goes through in this one is definitely the best in any DC movie. It handled a segment of him without powers better than Spider-Man 2 ever did, and what he really learns in this film is that he has a responsibility to stop these villains from taking over Earth. I thought Zod was a great villain, much better than Lex Luthor at least. Everything good that Superman the movie did, Superman 2 did it all better. I was almost tempted to put this film at number 1, and I gotta say, it's really close between these top two. Number 1, The Dark Knight. I feel like I've talked about The Dark Knight quite a few times recently, but here we go again. Yes, it's the best DC movie. Even the person who says it's overrated has to admit that it is the best of the DC universe. Obviously, the Joker is fantastic. He's just a guy who wants to see the world burn, and he wants to tear Gotham apart, and it is really interesting to see how he decides to do it. The Dark Knight has some amazing lines that I love.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I also think when Batman takes the fall for Harvey Dent's crimes, it is a great moment. When I first saw this film, I think I went in with the wrong mindset. I expected it to be one of the best films ever, so naturally I was disappointed. Now I realize that it is a great movie, while also being kind of overrated. So thanks for watching. That was my top 10 DC movies. Maybe you didn't expect The Dark Knight to be the top of my list, but just because it's overrated doesn't mean it can't be great. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click that like button and subscribe up here so you don't miss out on any more of my future movie content or any rankings like this. You can also check out some of my other DC videos right up here. Thanks for watching. This is Movie Micah signing off, and I'll see you next time.